Okay, I'm going to start out by telling you this. It takes 9 months for a human being to be born. It takes anywhere from 11 to 14 years for a human to mature enough, their body to mature enough for them to reproduce. Now, if our environment was to suddenly change, the majority, more than the majority of the human race would die off, possibly even all of it, because our body doesn't have time to mutate and change to become accustomed to the environment, okay? Meaning the environment becomes inhabitable. Now, if that environment change happens slowly over time, say over millions of years, human race would have time to reproduce, mutations would come into the human biology that would make it so that they could survive that environment. Because that's the way evolution works. Now let me show you something. This is one person. Okay? That's one person. That's number 2 person. Okay? This is the COVID virus. Okay? Mr. COVID virus. And just say that this is billions of COVID viruses. Okay? This virus gets into this person, doesn't change much because it's basically the same as this. Okay? They're both just white and white. Now, that same virus gets into this person and it starts to have words on it. Because that person, their biology has them words. So those 2 viruses that are there, and they, doing pretty good. Working out pretty good. So then, the next person comes along, and these 2 viruses are done with this person. They want to escape because they left behind a whole bunch of billions of little babies behind. We're going to say this tobacco is their little babies. And they left them behind, okay? So those are still working on these people. Will they survive? Will they die? Okay, so they come over here and they start reproducing in this person. Well, because they're 2 different strains of the virus, which, don't show much difference in the scientific world. But then they make this little guy. He's got some of the writing of this and some of the blank of this. So this makes a second variant. That's the second variant of COVID. And that's the one, I think that one was made in Europe. Okay? Now this guy from Europe, he goes and he ends up going to India. India that only has about 10% of its population vaccinated. Now this guy was built when we didn't have the vaccination. But now we have the vaccination, which stops a lot of it. But because this guy here went to India, along with these guys here, already in India, they all end up mixing together. Okay? When they mix together, they end up making this guy. So, this is the original COVID coming out of 2 separate people. This is the second iteration of COVID that shows a remarkable change in science. So that's the second iteration of the virus. This here is the Delta variant. A variant that Delta could either mean it's the third variant, or it could mean that it came from the Delta region of India. I'm not sure about the origins of the name. I am sure on how that bugger was made. Now that little bugger, you see that little top on there? He's an extra little kind of thing that makes him stronger than any one of these. And he's had a chance to come to America. Whee! Now, because he's got a bit of this guy, a bit of this guy, a bit of this guy, and they reproduce in the time it takes for one human being to be born and then mature to the point of being able to reproduce, a virus can reproduce millions of billions of trillions of times. And where it would take us millions of years to mutate to a point of being compatible with our environment, it only takes these guys weeks, months, maybe even less than that. We don't know. We know is one of these guys getting into a human being within 24 hours. That guy has already given birth to billions of little babies that are working to figure out how to get around anything that is in that human body that'll stop it from reproducing and going to another human being. It's working hard on it. It's working on it from this guy here who may have been an asymptomatic. Actually, this guy here was an asymptomatic guy. So he got the COVID and he didn't know he was sick. Okay? This guy here, he had the symptoms. So the guy who got this knew he was sick. So this virus here has been running around in people without people knowing that they're sick to it. Because their body doesn't have whatever it is that makes the human sick from him. Okay? And he's been running around in there and he's been, let's figure out how to change this a little bit. And so he gets together with this guy who does make people sick. And they say, all right, let's get together because if we get in this guy, we're going to die too quick. We get in this guy, we're not going to. So they produce this guy. And that guy has not much of a difference from both of these guys. But when all three of these guys get together, they make this guy. And that guy knows the tricks. And that's how you get the different variants. Do you understand now? It's basically basic biology. The same way you get a blue-eyed child or a brown-eyed child. Straight blonde hair or curly black hair. Pink skin, brown skin, or black skin. A child with Down syndrome or a child without Down syndrome. A child born without legs or a child born with legs. That's what all these viruses are doing. They're reproducing, remaking themselves, changing themselves so that they can survive in the human body without any antibodies hitting them and be able to send off to the next human being to reproduce some more. And when they find something that's becoming a problem to them while they're reproducing, they are changing their own biology to match their environment. You don't get variants of the COVID because you've got vaccinated. You get variants of the COVID because you didn't get vaccinated. And all the little babies this bugger has is now trying to work around your natural immunity or resistance to it. If you give yourself a shot before it gets to this point, which most of you guys didn't, and don't allow it to spread because that shot just crushes these types, you crush the virus. But you guys have refused to get the shot. And now this guy is running around. This guy's going to become worse. This guy is going to become resistant to the vaccine altogether. Because you little buggers out there who are refusing to get that vaccine are allowing this to spread without any kind of resistance whatsoever. So this guy's going to become pretty nasty. You're going to end up with this guy right there. And you know what that fire represents? The burning of the world you're going to cause.